This is the PAC meeting, programs and policies, and this meeting may involve the remote participation by members either by telephone or other electronic means due to the local public health emergency, novel coronavirus pandemic, pursuant to the provisions of Minnesota statutes, section 13D.021. So, do we do roll? We don't necessarily do roll call, but should we do introductions?
Well, we should anyway. I need the roll call to see who's here.
Yeah.
I think Neil, you can just look at the attendance thing, but we don't really have a packed agenda. So if you want to do like really just quick name introductions, Julia, I think we could do that today.
Yeah.
Everybody in, Julia, Matt.
Let's do first name, pronouns, and something about spring and walking. And I'll start us off. I'm Julia, committee member and co-chair of this committee, and she, he, they, and I'm looking forward to watching the trees start to make little flowers and unfurl their leaves while I'm on my walks.
I'm going to put Julia.
Let's see. Emma, would you be up for going?
Hi, I'm Pechuta, she, her, Minneapolis Park Board, and I've been really enjoying the spring flowers. So far, I've seen snowdrops and crocus, so nothing native yet, but we're close.
Sarah?
Hi, yes, Sarah Goodell, she, her, and I think just kind of the disappearance of the snow. I can't believe it's already gone. I don't want to jinx it, but yeah, it's been lovely.
Abigail.
Hi, Abigail, she, her, and I'm excited this spring to play a lot of tennis.
Matthew.
Hello, Matthew Deardahl, bike ped coordinator, he, him, his. I'm excited for the background that you see, which you'll see more often when I'm not in a leading role, which basically what I'm saying is I like to do walking meetings on my cell phone.
Where are you?
I am at the neighborhood school park.
Oh, you are, aren't you?
Yeah.
Ratana.
Hi, Ratana Sengsley Jen. I'm a senior city planner in this Department of Community Planning and Development, Community Planning and Economic Development, he, him, his. I'm just looking forward to the nice weather and not having to put booties on my dog on our walks. So
nice.
Tom.
Hi, everyone. Tom Tao, he, him, his. With the Minneapolis Health Department, and I'm excited to go on some bike rides with my dog.
Oh yeah.
Awesome. Matt.
Hi there, Matt Steinruck, he, him. I am very excited to be outside, walk around the lake, play some tennis as well. And I apologize, I'm trying to finish up a work meeting and my camera is not functioning well on 2 meetings.
Oh,
That's quite the tasking. Let's see. Peter, is your internet working well enough?
Let's see. Yeah, Peter Vader, co-chair of this committee, PAC member. He, him, his, and my favorite part of this time of year, I really like this time of year almost better than any time of year, being able to have dry pavement and then like no foliage yet, so you just like take your time, take a long walk, see forever, and see angles across lakes and up the streets across lakes that you don't see any other time of year. It's just like I love it.
Chris.
Hi, Chris Kartheiser, Minneapolis Public Works, he, him. I have a 5-month-old puppy who is starting to enjoy the water, but I'm excited as things melt to get him swimming more.
Barb.
Hi, I'm Barb, PAC member. He, she, her, and what I like is the birds. I was noticing Peter's birds, but in my backyard, there's lots of birds. And when we walk, I'm hearing so many different birds. So I'm loving that.
Awesome. Millicent.
Hey, Millicent. I am with Public Works staff, she, her, and I just hope to continue walking. It's nice to have walked for a whole year, almost every day, as much as I can, and just to see the passage of the weather. So that's what I've done.
That's Neil?
Oh, yeah. Today I was over at Bancroft School just now, pulling out of their garage or someplace 3 enormous beds for the gardens they're going to plant. Sign of spring. And looking forward to seeing what grows in the garden across the alley too.
Anything there yet?
Not yet, but there'll be berries out pretty quick, I gotta believe.
Right. I think that should be everybody, but the names are moving around a little bit. Did I miss anyone?
I'll jump in, Christopher. No, that's right. Hi there. He, him, and today I was stoked that I took off the rubber pavement tips off my walking poles and I screwed in the off-roading metal tips. So like, I'm ready now. Yeah.
Very nice. Looks like Sarah's here too.
Oh, thanks, Peter. Not Sarah who already went, but another Sarah?
I miss Sarah Goodall. That's my.
So we're good to start the CIP then.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Chris, are you going to share your screen again around this?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So basically, we're in month 2 of the capital improvement project planning. Hopefully with everyone's brainstorms and ideas on it, because we're trying to get something finished up enough to bring it to the full PAC at the beginning of April.
And I'll clarify, we are definitely bringing it to the PAC at the next full one. So like this is like last chance. There's been input in a variety of ways, and like it's pretty well put together already. Partially just because like last year we're using last year's format, and then folks did some other work. It has been updated slightly since it was sent out, since this is a working draft and we'll be making edits today. I'm just going with the most recent one I have. So if anyone needs me to kind of like go over anything that they don't recognize, I'm happy to do that. But yeah, basically planning to just go through kind of like piece by piece. If there's wordsmithing that folks want to do, like let's get into it now. We've got about a full hour. Maybe a little less now. We'll try to end this by 5. We'll see where we're at 5, so that we can actually get out of this meeting in an hour and a half today. But if we need a little more time, we'll just see what we need, since this is the last one. Anything else to add then, Julia, before I share my screen and dig in?
30.
Sorry. Yeah.
We have 50 minutes to give to this. And
sorry. Yeah. I was thinking in BA. I get so confused with the BAC and the PAC times being different. So yes, we have until 5:30 for this item. Out by 6 for the full meeting is the intention. Cool. All right. And a little tip, if you're on a computer, you should be able to zoom in. If you hit Control and use scroll, you can zoom in more to kind of adjust the size on your own screen. I'll try to zoom it in a good amount, but I want to also make sure people can kind of like see a whole section at once. So that's how you can make it, tailor it a little bit to yours. So, all right. So again, just jumping back real quick, there's been some of this, especially kind of the first half, is taken from last year's work that was done to create some of like the high level vision goals. I think we'll read through that quickly. If you have anything you want to change on this language, shout out and propose that change. We can talk about it and then decide if we want to keep it or not, and then we'll move on. And then in the second part is kind of like the new program recommendations, basically, and we'll just go through all that. So I'll just read this out loud. Goals of the PAC CIP recommendations. For Minneapolis to meet its aggressive Vision Zero Transportation Action Plan comprehensive 2040 plan goals, given the city's climate emergency and racism public health crisis declarations, all street projects must prioritize people-oriented walkable spaces, defined below. Prioritizing the pedestrian experience for all projects will create the necessary behavior change and strengthen our communities. As laid out in the Transportation Action Plan, mode share needs to shift rapidly. TAP's goal is 60% of all trips made by walk, bike, transit by 2030. Only by funding capital programs that are systems-wide in scale can we make this happen. The PAC recommends the CIP increase funding for pedestrian and bike infrastructure to align with the prioritization of modes as per the Complete Streets policy. Increasing funding in walk and bike programs now will lower costs for road maintenance for the future, as walking and biking do not wear out streets as vehicles do. Any comments on the overall goals paragraph?
Could we throw in the social cost of carbon?
And I'll just say this, like, as much as you could try to frame your comment in a sentence and where I could put it in, I think that would be helpful.
In the first sentence after the word declarations would be a good place for that. So we have goals given the emergency public health crisis declarations and the social cost of carbon. Is that what it's called, Julia?
Yeah.
Does that fit?
Or using the calculations of the social cost of carbon.
Well, I don't want to make it overly wordy.
Then
this paragraph is kind of,
yeah, perfect. Thank you.
And maybe there's a way to add it in another place as well. Because like in existing programs, we might, I don't know.
Yeah, thank you.
Anything else to this part? Okay, feel free to come back if you think of anything. I can pop back up there. The PAC vision, Minneapolis is the best walking city in the world year-round. Through deliberate collective action, Minneapolis is the place with world-class pedestrian infrastructure, connecting people and places with a safe and engaging public realm, places where people want to be, and where walking is the culture.
So that is just our vision, so technically we can't edit it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's like the actual PAC vision.
Maybe another day.
Yeah, and okay, I'll quickly go through this piece of it also. So to paint a picture of what we mean by walkable spaces and prioritizing pedestrians as per the Complete Streets policy, we have our minimum characteristics of a walkable street. Maybe I won't read these off since we did spend a lot of time on this last year. Is there anything that anyone's been thinking about that they want to add to this list?
These are all the same ones, looks like.
Yeah, they're all the same ones from last year.
I would rephrase if your hat blows off, but that's a tiny, tiny thing, so no.
Yeah, because it does.
Do we want to redefine the word safe, picking it up, like safe? Or do you just mean like in general, basically you can chase your hat and not be like, I'll get run over kind of thing?
Yeah, I think so. If I were rephrasing it, would be removing your, because that's really the only place it appears. And then like, I didn't realize we could edit this one. I thought it was tied with the vision. That, like if it goes into the street, like any point of the street, not just, because I feel like for people super car centric in their views, it may be so gone once it's in the street that doesn't even enter the thinking.
So if your hat blows into the street.
What? And you also said you wanted to remove your. So what if I said in line with like the next one, pedestrians feel safe stopping in the street to pick things up? Is that it?
Chasing things into the street. Pedestrians feel safe chasing things into the street. Chasing a hat that blows off into the street.
Pedestrians feel safe.
Is that what we want? I don't know if we want to lead with the image of pedestrians chasing things chaotically into the street.
Yeah, pedestrians feel safe chasing dogs in the street.
Okay, here, what about this?
Sorry.
I opened this can of worms. I'm gonna close it and say, if you want to rethink this before the
good
full
call.
committee,
There you go.
bring the sentence, and I think we can quickly do it here. But let's get to the meat of what we should be working on
Sorry
here.
about that, everyone.
And I do like your only because I think it humanizes. Like I imagine my hat blowing off when I read that, and I think that's kind of a
I like
right
that.
off
like it
the
really
bat.
personalizes it.
Okay, cool. So getting into some of the programs and program recommendations, the PAC advocates. So this is just kind of like a high level overarching thing to call out here. The PAC advocates for significant increases to funding for safe routes to school, pedestrian safety program, defective hazardous sidewalks, sidewalk gaps, and Vision Zero program. Cutting or underfunding these programs in any way will derail all policy goals as well as create higher costs in funding future projects or programs. For the sidewalk gaps program, include creating temporary protected sidewalks to fill gaps by taking space from the street instead of laying new concrete. C36 leading to Bede Makaska as an example. Anything in there? One thing I just want to point out here to let you know, and you can feel free to take this or leave this. When I was talking about like with the CIP or with Mike specifically about this piece of it, he did point out that like last year we did add more money to some of these categories, including I think the PED safety program and like obviously Vision Zero. And so I don't know if I guess I'm putting that out there in case you want to like reference that at all or not. But just putting it out there of like the context in which you're asking for more again is that last year it was bumped up in several of these categories. So
maybe
just putting it out there.
can we say overall pedestrian funding should be whatever the mode share is of the budget?
We've gone down that rabbit hole before, and I think it's kind of a tough one. It doesn't really translate well to the way that the CIP is set up and how our funding is set up. I kind of know what you're getting at, but I'm not necessarily advocating for changing the language of what you're asking for here, which is just to increase funding. I'm just letting you know that when I brought that up, it was like, oh, well, we did increase a lot. And so like that might be what some people think when they read this. So if you want to add that context of like, we know we increased some of the funding last year, we still need more. That's all I'm adding.
How about saying the PAC advocates for continued increases in funding for safe routes to school? Continued increases, meaning we know we got one, we'd like some more.
Significant and continued. Does that represent what you're suggesting?
Yeah.
Any?
Yeah, seconded on that part.
Yeah.
Oh, no, right.
Cool. I think that does kind of address what I was bringing up too. So I let from the staff side.
Every year, more money.
Yeah.
We get it all.
Okay,
You
cool.
do get it all.
Definitely feel free to come back to that area, but I'm gonna keep marching on. All right, new program recommendations, and I think we could just take these one at a time. So I'll read it, and then we can stop on it, see if people have anything to add or language changes or anything.
Yeah. And one thing I want to ask is, we can look at these and edit them, and then maybe after we do like just word editing, we might want to talk about prioritizing and like reordering, because these are kind of a little bit reordered. There's some new ideas down below, and then we also want to talk about concision and how many we want on there, because I know that was a discussion last year as well. So I think maybe we can do the small stuff and then get back into the big reordering decisions.
Cool.
Can we also give a brief context of who sees this document, just so we have audience in mind, especially for newer members who are.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, the primary audience, I would say, is our CIP staff who come to this committee and who work with Matthew and Millicent and I. They put together the CIP and the capital budget request, and they send off basically Public Works. They do like all the vetting and like get our Public Works proposal ready for CLIC, the Capital Long Range Improvement Committee. Secondary audiences are the council I think probably just like the general public as they interface with the CIP process, if they happen to come across this or something. And then CLIC, which I mentioned, the Capital Long Range Improvement Committee, which they kind of take our requests. And I don't know that they specifically get this resolution like delivered to them, but it'd be good to just kind of keep them in mind as the next step of the process, I think.
And Neil has served. Are you still on Click, Neil, or?
No, I'm not anymore. I think it's been 3 or 4 years since I was on.
So you've been on.
Scott, I think Scott's on it.
And Scott's a former PAC member of a number of years.
And Alyssa Shuffman of the BAC is on it too.
Oh, she is, isn't she? Yeah.
And Dan Miller, also a BAC member.
Right. And what do you call the guy on this? Josh. Josh has been on it for a long time.
Cool. So yeah, I think that's good context. So getting into the and I like what Abigail said about going through these and then kind of coming back and doing ordering and prioritization and stuff. So number 1, create a program to add benches, public restrooms, drinking fountains, and electric wheelchair charging stations in busy walking areas. Also include these as standard features on all standalone reconstruction projects. The sub-bullets here are to support the pedestrian priority network of the Transportation Action Plan. This also supports equity goals related to gender, aging, disability, climate resilience, community health, and vulnerable populations. Thoughts?
Brilliant.
It's also climate targeted in that it's a mode share increaser.
Yeah.
To the extent it's more people more comfortable going out of this thing than driving. That's what. Here's why I drive, because I don't want to. I don't know where I can stop. I don't know where I can go to the bathroom. I don't know where I can charge my device and all that sort of.
Is there a specific edit you wanted to propose, Peter?
I'll make a third bullet and post it back here. We can move on. I mean, as far as I'm concerned.
Once you come up with that bullet, just interrupt me and we can go back to it. I just want to remind folks that we can't use the chat function for substance.
I think it could be just to support the pedestrian priority network and mode share shift goals of the Transportation Action Plan. I don't know.
For me.
Okay.
Okay, cool. All right, number 2, create a program to install curb ramps and crosswalk striping at signalized intersections where one leg or more is missing. This takes action to support the city's approved complete streets policy.
Do we want that to include the curb ramps at non-signalized intersections missing legs?
Just striking out the signalized here?
Probably. I think we want crosswalk striping everywhere. We know we don't get it at non-signalized, but yeah. Others? Thoughts?
Sorry, what that would functionally change in my mind as I read that is you would add hundreds of park board or park intersections connecting to neighborhood streets where there are not curb ramps, and so that feels like the biggest change in my mind for what I know of the city, because there's a lot of misalignment of the city streets and where the park board has curb cuts and access points.
Do you see that as bad, good, neutral?
I don't know. It's just what came to my mind as I immediately thought well, where are those? Where are the unsignalized places where there aren't curb ramps? And the parks jumped. I'm in a park right now, so it just it's the top of mind.
If the audience is people within Public Works, my thinking was that on Hennepin, they're proposing not to install every curb ramp that needs to be there. So to me, requesting it maybe strengthens other requests, but I don't know how the internal
Yeah, that is a good secondary one, Julia, where there's like strange, strange or atypical streets coming into other streets. That's a good point.
And at the same time, this resolution wouldn't necessarily be the thing that would address that on Hennepin, since there is the money to do it. It's just a policy choice.
But if the audience is people who are in decision making, like it reinforces that this is a default, and when it doesn't happen, we have to go back and fix it. But I don't want to get us down a path. We're at almost 5 o'clock. So whatever other people are comfortable with.
Anyone have any other opinions on that?
No.
Well, let's leave it for now.
Leave signalized?
Yeah. We can fix it at the meeting if need be.
Okay. How does that?
Yeah, I'd rather if we had it like that last year and we don't know about how we feel about it, we should leave it untouched.
Right.
And
Is to go walking looking for these.
Can vote on it at the full if it comes to that.
Yeah.
Okay. 3, create a program to improve pedestrian safety and experience several blocks around freeway on and off ramps. Traffic calming measures will support Vision Zero goals. This will create a more comfortable walking and biking experience near freeways. This will support the Transportation Action Plan's goal of having 60% of all city trips be made by transit, walking, rolling, and biking.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds and looks good.
I like it.
Cool. Number 4, create a program in the CIP to fund neighborhood greenways. Neighborhood greenways are routes that enhance local, low-volume streets and give priority to people walking, biking, and rolling, and should significantly limit motor vehicles along sections of the street. The city's neighborhood greenway study covers the benefits of this program, and neighborhood greenways are included in the Transportation Action Plan for Minneapolis. Good.
Good too.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Can you get rid of the spaces around the M dash though, because they're bothering me.
Around where?
The M dash between the word rolling and the word and.
Get rid of the spaces?
Yeah, they shouldn't be there.
Here?
Yep.
There you go. Yep.
Okay. Create a formal program for crisis response, identifying and immediately implementing pedestrian improvements using low-cost materials that are community-driven, adaptable, and resilient. Projects like Stay Healthy Streets. These improvements must prioritize projects that grow out of the impacts of interrelated crises like police brutality and the global pandemic. Projects must center racial justice and seek to address or repair systemic harm against marginalized or oppressed community members. The aim is to specifically meet mode share shift and community-led changes to uses of right-of-way. This will support the city's declared climate emergency goals and reduce carbon emissions. This will support the Transportation Action Plan's goal of having 60% of all city trips be made by transit, walking, rolling, and biking. This will allow Public Works to respond to community needs with speed and skill.
I like that one a lot.
Yeah.
I really
Speed and skill.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well,
Could-
it sounds like, oh, you got something, Julia?
yeah, I wanted to give chances. I don't know if there's a way of adding something in to make sure that it isn't the thing that Public Works does, where it just puts everything on side streets and keeps really high volumes. Like on 38th in Chicago, would the city have been like, we're going to just shove everything over by a block? I want to make sure that this includes looking at community corridors, but I don't know if there's an easy way of doing that, and I defer to others.
I'm not quite sure if I fully understand.
A lot of times, like the neighborhood greenways, there's a tendency to decide to just keep increasing pollution vis-a-vis side streets on what we call arterials, instead of addressing the inherent problems of those. And instead of, like, community gathering spaces are community corridors. If we're looking at where people, it should be responsive in geography to where it needs to be, not where the city finds it convenient, because it doesn't inconvenience too many drivers. That's the
Okay. I think I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
For me, what this gets at is having a set, like a fund, a pot of money to be able to respond to whatever the crisis is. It's less about like
the metrics of decision making.
Yeah, like saying what that potential reaction to that crisis is, if that makes sense, which it sounds like maybe is kind of.
I retract my suggestion. I think it looks great. That was my only. Thank you.
If what I'm saying if that doesn't feel like it addresses what you're saying, we can dig into it more for sure.
It does.
Okay.
So then out of these 5, the only new one we have is a program to enhance park crossings, which I think also ties into the editing we're really thinking a lot about for number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I feel like maybe there's a way to consider editing the wording of number 2 to bring in the idea of certain park crossings, as well as,
Can I clarify something? I brought up that, to me, that the change that was brought up, like park crossings might be one of the main places that takes effect. I didn't necessarily hear reaction. Like, do people think, is that what people want? I wasn't necessarily saying like we should do that. I was wondering, like, was there a positive reaction to that idea of like park connections should be a top priority, I guess is my question.
True. There was just
a priority. I brought it up. I was one person who brought it up anyway, and I have something I can share real quick to the screen, and I can give an example of what I'm talking about, and then I have some verbiage that I wrote out and see if that fits in. So I do have something specific to present for a minute if somebody wants to let me have control of the screen.
Are you trying to present like some text, Peter, or
no? Just a picture of what I'm talking about, and then I'll read some text.
I hate to be a stickler, but I don't think we want to set that precedent of like showing something that wasn't on the agenda. So I don't think that we should do that. Just because, like, if someone was here who couldn't see it, then we're just not supposed to. That's like the clerk's office rules. Sorry.
I understand.
But if you want to
explain
what you're talking about,
let's start from that. So it's my same premise as some of the other elements, where when we encourage something, we discourage another. When we discourage things, we encourage other things. When we limit comfortable access to parks for people, we encourage automobile use. So my specific beginning draft of a bullet item would be asking for a program to enhance street crossings to parks. So providing crosswalks at park corners where street speeds are 25 miles per hour or greater. And that, by my casual but expansive survey of the cities, that's what parks all over the city sit as islands of recreation with limited uncomfortable access to them.
Can you say that one more time, Peter, the bullet point?
Requesting a program to enhance street crossings to parks and to provide crosswalks at park corners where street speeds are 25 miles per hour or greater.
Here, wait, hold on. I'm trying to type as you go. Requesting a program to enhance crossings.
Yeah, that's the rubric under which we would say that we would provide crosswalks at park corners where street speeds are 25 miles per hour or greater. Okay, provide crosswalks. Yeah, there we go. All right, so you're a little behind. Yeah, there we go. Yep.
I have a minor
That's what I
thought on
said.
that one.
Okay.
Peter, can I share a minor thought on that one? So overall, I am just, and it's fine, but I'm a little concerned about just how many just specific programs we have. So maybe this is one instance where instead of like a sub bullet saying a program to create enhanced crossing parks, could you say like an example could be crossings at parks?
Or
that,
prioritizing.
yeah, or like, prioritize parks as a criteria or something like that.
What if we said that it's at intersections where one leg or more is missing? I guess we get rid of signalized if we're folding this in. Prioritizing street speeds of 25 miles per hour or greater, particularly park access.
I personally really like the 25 mile an hour one because that like clearly identifies the type of street we're talking about.
I think that, I mean, there are so many of them that prioritization seems like it's really helpful.
So I have the first part, and then am I adding and at park crossings, or what was the park piece of this?
Peter, I don't know if what I was saying was working with what you've said, but I would put it in the whole sentence. So
say what you mean.
So create a program to install curb ramps and crosswalk striping at intersections where one leg or more is missing, prioritizing crossings where street speeds are 25 miles per hour or greater. And then like parenthetical, such as most city parks.
Such as many city parks. Is that what you said?
Yeah, that's a little.
Such as adjacent to many city parks.
Yeah.
How about such as intersections adjacent to city parks?
Yeah.
Hey, wow. We came out the other end with a pretty good program.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of us.
Cool. Okay, so before we go into like prioritizing, I just want to make sure like there's no other ideas out there, or like this is maybe like a last call for potential new ideas to discuss. Don't feel like you have to reach. I think we have a pretty good list here, but like if there's anything that you feel has gone unsaid, now would be the time to say it before we just kind of focus on how we present these things.
So after this point, start your list for next year.
Yep. Okay, cool.
Chris, before we get into that, can you go scroll down to the bottom?
Yes.
Can you delete the new program ideas? And then can you read the notes on program recommendations? Because I think they're going to guide us in the prioritizing process.
Yeah. So these are just some good kind of things that I think we all kind of agreed on from last go around talking about this. So notes on program recommendations. Be concise this year. Stress the urgency. Stress not to cut from existing programs. Funds should increase for current programs and expand into new programs, especially given that cuts are possible for coming years.
I think we definitely did the second thing down there because we put that explicitly into our existing programs area.
Yeah.
And then if we can just remember to be concise and stress urgency, then we can probably delete all these notes so that we can have like a very clean resolution when we come out the other end of this.
I would say 5 is pretty concise. Like that feels like a really good number. I don't think we need to like worry about cutting any of this. I think that
sweet.
For me at least, I don't know, Matthew, what you think, but like it seems
I agree.
Pretty strong.
Okay.
This feels really good so far.
Order them in the way we want them ordered.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So, what are people's thoughts?
Could we move crisis response up and greenways down?
So switch 5 and 4.
I think 5 for me. 5 would be probably number 2. But I don't know where
do it I'm going to do it while you say it, and then we can discuss it. What did I do, though?
Yeah.
Where'd 5 go?
Sorry, 1 sec.
Okay, there you go. Maybe.
Like not a true bulleted list. Okay, thoughts on that? Having that as number 2.
I love number 1 as number 1.
Oh yeah.
Just FYI.
Yep, I do too.
Something everybody can use.
Yes.
Yeah, the basic bodily needs.
That's right. And
I like that change, and I think this order, I wouldn't suggest, I don't have any suggestions to change the order. I think it's good right now. You know, 1, I agree, Abigail, 1 should be 1, I think. And 2 just sort of sets the tone. Really what we're talking about is trying to be nimble and responsive, not kind of like Hennepin County and Lindale, not to bring up anything recently.
Not to get personal.
yeah, Emily's not here today.
No, okay, no.
So she won't take offense. That's good.
And any other?
I just want to note that I'm fine with Julia's suggestion to have neighborhood greenways go down. I also, think that I want to prove maybe that concept wrong, and hopefully we can show in the coming years how amazing neighborhood greenways will be for the city in the next 10 years. But I'm not gonna fight that right now.
I mean, Matthew, we want neighborhood greenways too. That's why they're on our list. But we also think since they're a public works invention, they'll more likely be funded. So we don't need to stress their funding because public works will do that job for us.
No,
So
I agree. I will say,
I'm a little cynical about
that. Oh, I think
I just want to say, I think
public works is going to handle it on their own.
Yeah. I'm like benches.
Can I say something?
Sorry.
I want to say I'm again. I think we're on the same page because I said I'm not going to fight that, but I will note they weren't really a public works invention. It was a lot of advocacy from Northsiders and community demand for them around the North Side Greenway, and then we kind of built from there. But anyway,
how many?
It's on the list.
If we wanted benches, like what level of signatures would it take to get them? If we did a petition.
I don't know that. I don't think that's really how it would work.
Okay.
I think this is a good way.
Fine.
I think someone's. We're getting
Someone's
a second.
Yeah, I mean, I'm supposed to be on this post.
Go ahead and mute them.
Does anyone else have any thoughts that have spoken up yet?
Or
I
questions?
like the movement up of number 5 to number 2. I thought that was a good decision, and I think the priority looks good to me right now.
Are we done?
I think so. We managed to finish it early too. Nice. Good work, everybody. Thanks for putting the effort in these meetings and outside of these meetings too, for those of you who helped outside of it.
So Chris, can you keep this doc and then just keep it and make sure it goes with our agenda for the next one as our draft resolution? Because I don't think there are other edits. Like, I mean, even typing edits. So
Yeah. Actually, since we have some time, maybe it's good to just talk about this here too, like the function of bringing this to the full. So I will make sure it's included in that agenda. Technically, like any given motion, you could just make a motion at any time. So like somebody still needs to move this. So the way functionally it will work is like some PAC member, any one of you that wants to, can move this at the full committee, and then we'll go into a vote. And well, obviously there's discussion first, but just a reminder that someone will need to kind of formally.
Okay, well, it'll be on the PNP agenda report. So
okay, cool.
They'll do it there.
May I ask a quick question? A little while ago, members on the click were identified. Was the reason for that to submit this to Public Works, but to also submit it sort of as a workaround, like, for example, on Abigail's signature, email it to a couple of members so they have it in the form that we ultimately pass? Was that I kind of missed the thread there a little bit on what we were doing.
There was some, I
Yeah.
think Julia brought up as like context that that's another audience of this. I mean, you definitely could send it to like those BAC members. They're obviously aware that the BAC is also putting a resolution together now. So I don't see a harm in like sending it to Alyssa if she's not already aware of it.
Because Chris, I
We've
thought you said
talked
something
about-
about you weren't sure if they would get it, the form.
Yeah, so I don't think it's like formally delivered with like the Public Works CBRs, the capital budget request, like the things that Public Works formally delivers don't go to click. So the formal audience of this resolution is Public Works, who then takes that into account for the recommendations we send along. So it was more just that like
okay, I got it.
Functionally, that's not sent, but you definitely, yeah,
I got
definitely
it.
Could.
Emails are cheap. I think we should send a couple. So
Yeah.
okay, thank
We
you.
talked about, Christopher, maybe that's what you were bringing up, but we did talk about it in the past. And I think it would be awesome to do, because that's where it seems like they're able to push. Like the click members are theoretically responsible for advising the city on it. So I think we tailored what we value and what makes a walkable street, hoping that they would read it. So is that something we want to talk about right now in our bonus time, or?
I would say we should move on to the next. Like,
okay.
Well, yeah, like I think we got as far as this item needs to go. So at least I'm done with my piece of this item. And I do think Hennepin may benefit from extra time. So I don't know if there's like bonus time, quote unquote, in the meeting, but.
All time bonus time. Okay, then let's switch over to Hennepin Avenue if people are ready. This is a new thing that we're trying with Hennepin Avenue. It's a big project in a couple of ways. It's one of the first, it's probably the biggest project that we see in the city advisory committee tasked from the city of Minneapolis specifically. We have very few big streets, big community corridors that the city has control over, and Hennepin Avenue is one of the handful that exist. So this is a major redo, and we wanted to use the time in I&E to focus on the specifics for the point that the project was at when it came in there. But we also have known that in the past, sometimes these projects that come to us don't live up to the city's ideals, or we have other broader feedback we want to give. So the thinking was that we could get the specifics down in I&E and then use this meeting to talk through whether or not we feel the city's proposed options are meeting the goals that they espouse, all of that stuff, if that makes sense. And it's possible that what comes out of this looks like essentially the preamble to our resolution. So our resolution will have the, like, we want this and this in the layout, but the first part might say more, as we did in the CIP, this does or doesn't live up to complete streets, Vision Zero, whatever our other values and policies are coming out of the city.
Yes, and I wanted to just add, I think we haven't written yet. If we haven't written yet the Hennepin, so I can't stay to the end of this meeting, but I wouldn't mind taking a crack at the part of the Hennepin resolution that is the I&E part, just based on, you know, Peter's notes and being at the meeting. There is one?
Mm-hmm.
There is one. It's in Peter's notes?
No, not for Hennepin. It is. I don't.
We saw the resolution for Glendale. So if there's not a resolution for Hennepin based on I&E, I don't mind helping form it from all the notes we've gathered in the emails. And then if you guys, when you finish this meeting, someone else wants to take point on writing that, as Julia called it nicely, a preamble, or the first paragraph, then we can merge the two together in emails prior to the full meeting, if that works for everybody as like a working. Okay. And I'll send, of course, the resolution I get together from the notes and remembering the meeting to everybody once I have it this week.
Thank you, Abigail. Do you want to, if you have to leave early, do you want to start us off with thoughts, or does anybody else want to start us off with things that you noticed, didn't notice, we're glad to see, we're surprised not to see on what was presented to us in INE, which is also attached for this meeting in our agenda? I have infinite rants on Hennepin Avenue, including this project, so I'm really like doing my very best to keep it zipped. So I really want to make sure that I'm sure I haven't exhausted the possibilities that are out there. I want to hear everyone's voices on it.
I just like the phrasing you used when you said that this is a policy making street. And so I think when you say like our policies will live or die by what we choose to do on Hennepin, and I think that's just like a great way to couch in how we're going to talk about comparing our policies and even the bike master plan and just all that stuff. So that's just all I have to say. But
like us, policies live and die on Hennepin. Well, I will start us off. Well, no, I'm going to keep zipping it. I really want to be.
I'll just say that the thing that first came to my mind was with the option that did not include a bicycle infrastructure on Hennepin. It really, I had a tough time even coordinating that with the ostensible pyramid of users. Bicyclists, it just reminded me of separate but equal schools that, well, they're off in, on Bryant, and so they miss all the stores and the shops and the restaurant that they might want to visit. That I can't get it to. In no way did I think it was consistent with the pyramid of users that the city ostensibly wanted. I just think offering that up was something. I don't know, that was the most troublesome thing for me. That I think it undercuts the city's stated priorities of users. So.
I felt
to the extent it, oh, go ahead, Barb.
I was going to say I felt the same thing was true about the point that Abigail brought up at the meeting regarding the absence of a transportation lane on between Lagoon and 31st. I think that's how far it goes. Maybe it's 3 blocks, but I thought that was crazy. I mean, let's get cars down to 2 lanes and have a lane for transportation. If we're encouraging people to take transit and bike and walk, then we should have those facilities along the whole street, not break them up because there's a business section in there and they want people to be able to park and deliver their goods and stuff. They can go to the back, in my opinion. So. That's it for me.
Matt, Sarah?
We ended up, Barb asked right at the beginning of the meeting, or we to focus on the design option that the packet expressed preferences for, including the bike lane and all that stuff. And so with so much, with so much time to go between now and final design or final choices and all that stuff, it can go sideways anytime. If pro parking forces rule the day, for instance. So I just speaking, I guess I'm just speaking my own thoughts as I hear them, is that there was so much positive. We ended up talking about so many positive things, like surprising to me how much we like that, how much there was a design that we liked so much. and that we focus on it at INE. And I guess I want to be, to the extent policies involved, is like how much, be aware of how much it could change, or it could not be like that design that we preferred.
Yeah. I hear you, Peter. I think part of it was splitting up the two different sections, like bringing some of the things that we bring up into this portion. And I hate the way like that the city even presented option 2 is ludicrous, beyond absurd. Option 1 doesn't even have bike lanes the full length of Hennepin. There's nothing, it goes from 2 lanes to 1 lane to 2 lanes to 1 lane in between Douglas and 22nd, just sort of at random as far as I can tell. And it seems like the main thing is to prevent there from being a bike lane or dedicated transit on that stretch up until you hit Franklin. It's, I'm hoping our resolution strengthens what comes after and makes it clear that, at least from my perspective, option 1 is lower than the bare minimum acceptable. Option 1 with some major adjustments may meet the bare minimum we see happening within city frameworks currently, because it doesn't, like, we still don't get benches on a street like Hennepin. We're $23 million for downtown Hennepin, and all the benches are being taken away. So it's, yeah, I want to be really.
So the idea being that option 1 is a foundation in which can be built a project that is conforms with the city's stated goals, but option 2 cannot be improved to the point that it meets the city's stated goals, or something like that.
Yes, and especially if we can mention that city's stated goals are not, they have not yet met our bare minimums of, like, can you sit down with your groceries when you need to rest? Like, the city's stated goals are so far below the bare minimum pedestrian needs. And we didn't even reach that there, but there is that potential. Yeah, I like the way you said it. It sounds neutral, but with some punch behind it. Neil? Your face popped up on my screen.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sure I've run into you walking on Hennepin.
Yeah, I used to walk Hennepin all the time.
When,
So there's no transit lane on Hennepin all the way down?
Nope, it disappears between Douglas and Franklin. Is it 22nd? I don't have it open. And then it disappears again from the transit station to Lake Street.
Isn't it beyond Lake Street? Goes to 31st, doesn't it? Disappears.
There's none right now. The project ends at Lake Street. It deals with a little bit of the curb work.
They've already fixed.
Yeah.
They've already fixed up the next block.
Yeah, but the 21 turns off at that point. I don't know. I'm concerned too about Vision Zero and seeing what we know that some of these intersections are deadliest in the entire city, and they're among the handful of extremely deadly and dangerous intersections that the city has control over, unlike our county roads. So to see the crossing distances and number of lanes remain almost unchanged is extremely disappointing. If we actually believe in Vision Zero, just to list more of those policies where what's designed seems to undercut priorities. Let's see. Do any of the newer members or any of the agency reps have any things to add?
This is Matt. I just following up from my question last week. I didn't really find the explanation as to why there's 5 lanes of traffic and no transportation lanes, especially for one of those 2 blocks. I would at least like an explanation on that. I think it's from Uptown Transit to Lagoon, going southbound. It goes from 1 lane of traffic to 3, but it's only going to be 1 lane of traffic that's feeding 3 lanes.
Yeah.
For that first block. And so that leads to the 5 lanes of crossing in front of the library. You know, I would think we could at least find a way to redesign that aspect if only 1 lane of traffic is feeding those 3 lanes.
Yes. I think it's kind of, it's disturbing to see in one of our densest commercial and entertainment nodes that we essentially just make sure it's a, you know, highways bisecting each other rather than a place where people can be out and gathering. And it seems like it gets treated like it's an abandoned parking lot, like when with people spinning donuts and stuff. It's not a place where people gather spontaneously outside of vehicles. So do we have a sense of maybe how we would want to order this, if there's specific things to highlight? I feel like whatever teeth we can give this would be great. We know that Abigail's and Alyssa will be addressing it somewhat in their presentation at the end of March. But the key point of this setting the tone for everything that we see coming forward and for what we'll execute via the new transportation action plan and so many other policies seems key. But I don't really have a sense of how we do that.
I'll take just a stab, and I'm not wedded to this, but first I think it should be, as you've described, a preamble to state that Hennepin County is an historic and storied street in Minneapolis, and it should be the crown jewel that represents the city's vision and you know, actuality going forward for multimodal transportation. Then I think talk about that option 1 is a foundation that with sufficient change can be built a reality that reflects what we talk about in number 1. And then in number 3, maybe talk about the specifics that we've sort of enunciated so far, a few of them. Maybe that general structure of a document.
Does that allow us to call out? I think the pressure here needs to include whatever happens here is what the county will take as the best possible that they will do. This is what the city says. Hey, county, we keep telling you we want slower speeds. We keep saying, oh, you're killing people. Do we care on the street we actually control? Because if not, that's the clear message of hypocrisy that our county engineers in Medina are going to get from our, you know, great city engineers. Like, we have to give them the highest possible bar that we can get built here if we want to see any improvements on Lowry, on Broadway, on Franklin, Lake Street, Central, University. Like that's I think one of the, for me, it's one of the key pieces. I live on Hennepin, but it's that it is the system catalyst, and it must be treated with that gravity, I think, in designing it. That this is being designed for decades.
I completely agree with that. I think it could probably go into section 1 or 2 as I just identified them. You know, that it is not only of great import for decades to come to this city and citizens or residents of Minneapolis, but also for the city's partners and other, you know, entities or something, you know, something like that. But yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it's not just, I mean, it's setting an example for, you know, ostensibly the state.
True.
So.
Yeah. I missed your number 3, which is why I don't generally take notes, but.
Well, I mean, I would say number 3 might be where we talk about the more specific items that we've identified.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And I don't know about you guys, style wise, I just plan on typing in all caps in bold, in like
Right.
font, just to like really, you know, to get our emphasis.
Yeah, yeah.
And a lot
Underline.
of exclamation
Yeah.
marks.
Right, lots of exclamation marks. Just slightly chaotic look.
You know, we really need
Yeah.
we need to make one of those, like one of those birthday cards to get where it's, "Whoa," there's a noisemaker in between the layers.
Oh,
And
and
then when they
like,
pick it up and open it, there'll be somebody screaming, but being hit by a car.
Yeah.
Matthew, what do you think of that? He left.
No, okay.
He had enough.
No,
They went crazy.
I'm sorry. No, I'm
Off
here.
the
I
deep end.
was eating. I'll admit I was eating carrots, and you have to like finish. Anyway, sorry. What do I think about the third paragraph of specifics?
No, just like that we're gonna write it in all caps and like
Right.
You know, we're just talking about how we're gonna style our
Yeah. Well, we could cut out the letters from magazines and glue them onto a poster board.
Ah, there you go. Yeah, make a
we will take your street hostage.
A blackmail letter.
That's right.
I'll answer that jokingly question with a serious thought. I think, like, to me, I think the very most absolute important thing right now is that you prefer option one, and the way you've described it, I heard, and I love that. That seems to be like the main outcome to me, because we have 1 second, Julia. We have two options. We are gonna pick one, and there's opportunity to change and make it better. But like, there's a real choice between option 1 and 2. I think there's power behind, different power sources are behind different options. So I guess what I'm taking from this is option 1. Everything else to me is very important context and helps me and my coworkers understand your perspective. But it's very simple. Option 1 is what you want to make it better. So
will we have another resolution or writing on this after the public engagement in July before it goes to TPW in August?
it should be your expectation that happens. Yes.
Okay. So that like, some of this we can capture. We can save anger if our requests are not, taken with legitimacy or some level of it.
I think that's an interesting way to look at it, because I think the thing is, like I said, there's going to be a decision. We're going to like move forward, and the team's going to refine it going to 30%, and what comes back could either just be glorious, and your resolution at that point will just be very simple, that you support and appreciate all the changes, or something different than that. So yes, you'll have the opportunity to review and comment on the next iteration.
I mean, I'm just thinking, like, I know that a lot of us on the PAC Hennepin downtown is also under city control, and so it had a lot of the same things going into it, and there was a ton we put in, I think I counted at some point, we put in hundreds of hours among the official capacity PAC representation and committees and subcommittees and working groups we all did. And I know that there were at least some of us who considered resigning because of what ended up being passed, and seeing how it doesn't meet with what the city continues to say it values. And if that kind of conversation were to be on the table, it seems like that would be a later conversation. This is still in the, like, we're just driving home of the importance of this corridor and of the need for option 1 and the changes to happen. Anything beyond that, like, we don't need to go that far to express the urgency at this point, because it's entirely feasible. We have the TAP now, we have Vision Zero now, like, we have all these things that should theoretically make it so it's really obvious what we do, which is bike lanes along the whole corridor. And the other thing that we brought up in I&E, and I'm changing the topic, so bring me back to the first one if that makes sense, or we can go with the second one, is MnDOT, getting the city to talk to MnDOT about removing that, the on-off ramps on Hennepin, since they seem like the good candidates for the $10 billion at the federal level, maybe. So those are the 2 points. One is delaying the strongest language and sentiments, maybe. And then the other one is any thoughts on how we integrate pushing for Public Works to approach MnDOT about this.
Julie, I completely agree with your point that I think the tone and word choice of this at this time should be measured but appropriate. And I think that's. I just want to say I agree. If they come back with 6 lanes of traffic and nothing else, well, then things can change in tone and word choice. But I completely agree with you. I think reasoned and in a upbeat and supportive tone about the possibilities from option 1 and the changes that can be made to make it really something of value for decades to come for the city is vitally important. And I think I take Matthew's counsel pretty seriously that I think a win out of this is a better option 1. I think if we get too blue sky, we lose some effectiveness to get a better option 1. But that's just my thoughts.
What are other people thinking?
I want to lash out.
You and me, yeah.
What was it? Approved.
I like the idea. I liked what you said in the beginning about setting this bar has to be set high, and the communication with partners has to be clear about what we really value and what we really want to see in our city streets. And I think that's a strong statement. It's not an angry statement necessarily, but it's a strong statement.
Yeah.
I agree.
So
That's all. Just me too.
You too.
I would like to I think the MnDOT thing will end up in the I&E portion of the resolution. But that one I was surprised and heartened to hear Becca share that they had talked about that initially. And I might read too much into the language, but the fact that it was sort of, we got some more context, it didn't sound like it was a definite no. And I feel like so much of what we're asking for becomes so much easier to be delivered with that there's a value, even if we don't think it's very feasible, it's so much more feasible now than it was a few months ago for us to make this request and to get the city to at the very least in this project, start figuring out what their processes are. Maybe it doesn't happen here, but there's so many parts of the city that are facing all the aggression, like as we have in our CIP. It's a much worse experience for pedestrians blocks from highway on and off ramps. So I don't know if it's a separate resolution for this, if this muddies it to have that piece in it, or if we make that a piece. But I'm curious other people's thoughts on it, or it's one I thought about calling Becca to try and get more details. I don't know what to mean.
Well, I think, and maybe I can't even articulate why yet, I think it should be a separate motion. I think we should do our best to focus on getting the best option 1 possible and why it's necessary for the city of Minneapolis, its agencies, its partners for decades to come. And that issue is important. And maybe we could put in a line that every enhancement that the city is going to make for Hennepin can be even greater enhanced if, and then just put in, something like that. But I'm not even sure that would be the best idea. But I want to think about that some.
What you say, to me, what makes it sensible to separate is that if we make it, we know how much easier it is if the highway on off get removed, but therefore it almost ties it so that, well, if we can't do that, we can't make it better. Like there's a reverse false logic that I feel like could pop in, because that everything we need is regardless of the on-off ramp. The on-off ramp is just an easy way to get there, but it could muddy the water of sort of that.
Now you've convinced me they should be separate. I
think they should be simultaneous though, and specific to Hennepin, with a sub ask for going forward, not just Hennepin. If that makes sense.
No, I'm not. Yeah, the timing doesn't. That isn't. I think they should be separate, and the timing, yeah. However that works out from the PAC's perspective. So yeah.
Do other people have thoughts on this part of it? We could have really lovely picnics on the flyover for our PAC meeting in September of this year, if we could get it done really fast.
You are ever the optimist.
All you gotta do is throw up some barricades and we're at 5:48 and I got put in charge of the time and have remembered to look at it twice, so I feel like we're winning right now, at least from my usual skills. Let's figure out how we're drafting this, and if anyone's interested in working to draft the separate MnDOT resolution.
I'll nominate Julia Curran for the separate MnDOT resolution.
You're not voting for her.
Julie, if you would like, I would be more than happy to give my thoughts on to whatever your first draft is.
Awesome. Anybody else want to be?
Yeah, I got some notes on that on a first draft. I just want to be clear on at this resolution for the design options. Yeah, I'm not surprised. It sounds like our preamble, our PMP portion of this resolution can be pretty succinct. That is the foundational stuff, the policies, the policy reasoning isn't necessarily relevant for this resolution, and that it's just part of it. Just quote that it's an iteration to a public works planning component. I've heard in Matthew saying, that we focus on that we're on the policy side of the preamble, that we focus on our preference for option one, and then the I&E portion kind of takes it from there. And I can add all sorts. I can add all sorts of the supporting language, but I don't know. And but I sound like we had some guidance on how important that is at this stage, or whether not it's counterproductive or.
Peter, are you equating the I&E portion with specific suggested improvements? So kind of like the number 3 section? Okay. Yeah?
Yes.
Sounds good.
So Peter, were you volunteering to take on the preamble, or were you making a suggestion? Okay.
Kind of both.
Awesome. I am my gut, based on nothing and often wrong, is that we do want to cite the policies, especially since this is like the first debut of the Transportation Action Plan on such a major level. But I don't know, what you're saying about it also makes some sense to me. I don't know if we have. I'll start it
wide like that. And then we can look at it with words in front of us and then go from there.
Awesome. So I have Peter, Christopher, and myself for the MnDOT thingy. I have Peter for the preamble. I'm interested in helping out with that. Is anybody else interested? Was Abigail saying she's interested in the I&E portion, so we'll probably bring her in since they got it tied together. Neil, Matt, Sarah, Barb.
I'd be willing to look at the preamble piece too.
Okay, and I heard another stir, but I didn't recognize. I didn't catch the.
Who?
Was that you, Matt? Or
No, it wasn't. Sorry.
okay. It didn't sound like Neil to me. I'm not sure if maybe it was something else. Okay, so we have Peter, Abigail, Barb, and on the preamble, Christopher, you're not aiming to get in on that one.
I'd be more than happy to weigh in. I mean, if I would suggest like a couple of people work more closely together, get a first draft, and then send it out to basically everyone on this call, and they can weigh in. I think just the first, the kitchen shouldn't have too many cooks for the first draft.
That's for sure.
Sounds good. Would anybody be more comfortable opting out of being part of that second portion of emails?
Nope, bring it on. We'll all read it.
More the merrier. Awesome.
More the merrier.
Yeah. And since there's a little bit of stuff going on outside of this one, please feel free to, I think, reach out to me or Peter or probably Abigail or Christopher or anybody, any members of any type who want to talk about this or get clarity on this. Yeah. Is there anything else that we haven't discussed on Hennepin or about what we're doing for our next steps here? I will throw out for an announcement that we do have, as far as I know, we still have the PAC-BAC presentation to the city at the end of March. I don't have the date and time handy.
March 31st at 1:30 p.m. via Microsoft Teams. I'll send an email out to everybody with a reminder and a link. And then also in the email, I'll ask people to tell me if you actually are going to attend, so I can give the typical shout out to those in attendance. Obviously, it's not as easy to like see or know your presence, but I'll still let the council know.
If anybody wanted to find someplace that's dark enough to set up a projection screen, but also outside because COVID, and do a viewing party for this, I would be for seeing what I could pull together. Because that sounds kind of fun. But otherwise, it would be awesome to have people attend and know we're viewing it together. And supporting what sounds like an awesome presentation from Alyssa and Abigail. That's, I think, it for any announcements I can think of. Does anybody else have any announcements?
I think that's it.
Alrighty. I miss being able to ask who's walking home and which direction you're going, and can I walk with you? So.
Yeah, okay. Holy cow.
I run into all of you out there. Even if I won't recognize anyone.
Are you just stalling so that you can say you've never ended a PAC meeting early?
Yeah, yeah. That's what I was wondering too.
There's got to be other announcements. Are you really wanting to hang up before 6? Okay, let's be done. All in favor?
Yeah.
All right. Nice seeing everyone.
Bye-bye.
Excellent meeting, Julia.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bye,
good job, Julia.
Bye-bye.
Bye.